Get out!
Nobody wants you here.
And don't come back!
The front door slammed so hard, the family photos rattled off the hallway wall. My older brother Tyler pointed toward the driveway, laughing loud enough for every guest at Thanksgiving dinner to hear. Time to fend for yourself. The room exploded with awkward chuckles. My aunt looked away. My cousins suddenly became fascinated with their mashed potatoes. Even my father refused to meet my eyes. I stood there holding nothing but my purse and the small manila envelope my grandmother had begged me never to lose. Tyler smirked as he folded his arms. "You've lived off this family long enough." My stepmother crossed her arms. "And don't come back asking for money." My father sighed but stayed silent. That hurt more than anything. Outside, freezing rain soaked my coat within seconds. I looked back through the dining room window. They were already laughing again, as if I had never existed, as if throwing me out on Thanksgiving was entertainment. They had no idea what was coming, because while everyone believed I was leaving with nothing, I was carrying the very last thing Grandma had ever given me. And 3 hours later, the manager of our local credit union locked his office door behind us. He stared at the faded document in my hands. Then he looked at me with an expression that instantly erased every ounce of confidence from his face. In a whisper, he said, "Ma'am, please take a seat." Nobody in that room knew the truth, but that's not where this story began. 3 months earlier, after Grandma Eleanor passed away, my family barely waited for the funeral before dividing everything she owned. Tyler claimed her truck. My stepmother took her jewelry. Dad kept the lake cabin. Even the antique furniture disappeared before the flowers on Grandma's grave had wilted. I wasn't interested in any of it. Grandma had raised me after my mother died, and every memory I treasured couldn't fit inside a moving truck. Still, Tyler made sure everyone believed I was trying to steal from the family. "She's probably looking for hidden cash," he joked during one gathering. Everyone laughed. I didn't. Grandma had taught me something important. When people become obsessed with money, she'd often say, they stop paying attention to what actually matters. At the time, I thought she meant kindness. I would later discover she meant something much more literal. One rainy afternoon, while helping clean Grandma's sewing room, I found an old envelope taped underneath the bottom drawer of her antique cabinet. My name was written across it in her handwriting. Inside was a handwritten letter and a folded document. The letter simply read, "If your family ever turns against you, take this directly to Heritage Community Credit Union. Don't tell anyone. Promise me. No explanation, no details, just a promise." I kept it hidden. Remember that detail. It matters later. Over the following weeks, life became unbearable. Tyler constantly criticized me. He mocked my small apartment. He laughed about my modest office job. He called me the charity case. Every family gathering became another opportunity to embarrass me. Dad never defended me. My stepmother encouraged it. "The truth hurts," she'd say with a smile. They underestimated silence. They mistook patience for weakness. That was their first mistake. Thanksgiving finally arrived. I genuinely hoped things might improve. Instead, Tyler announced during dinner that Dad was rewriting his estate, so the successful children would inherit everything. Then he looked directly at me. Some people need to learn to survive without handouts. Everyone understood exactly who he meant. When I quietly stood up to leave, Tyler followed me into the hallway. He grabbed my overnight bag and threw it onto the porch. Then he shoved me outside. "Time to fend for yourself." The laughter behind him echoed as the door slammed shut. That was the moment something inside me became perfectly calm. Not angry, not heartbroken, certain. I drove straight to Heritage Community Credit Union. The building was nearly empty because of the holiday. Only one manager remained inside. His nameplate read Daniel Morris. I handed him Grandma's document. He smiled politely, then unfolded it. His smile disappeared. He read it again, then again. Without saying another word, he quietly stood, locked the office door, closed the blinds, picked up the telephone. "My apologies," he whispered. "I need to call our legal department immediately." My heart started pounding. 5 minutes later, he returned carrying several thick folders from the vault. He compared signatures, account numbers, certificates. Then he slowly looked up. "Your grandmother established something extraordinary nearly 40 years ago." I stared silently. He slid the first folder toward me. Inside were trust documents, investment statements, property records, stock certificates, everything legally notarized. Grandma had secretly built an investment trust after selling a small manufacturing business decades earlier. She never touched most of the money. Instead, she quietly invested it for 40 years. The trust was now worth over $28 million. I thought I was misunderstanding him. I think you've confused me with someone else. He gently shook his head. No. He pointed toward the final page. You are the sole beneficiary. The room felt completely silent. Then came the second revelation. Grandma had anticipated exactly what my family would do. The trust contained a specific clause. If any beneficiary attempted to force, intimidate, manipulate, or financially isolate me after her death, they would permanently lose every indirect benefit connected to the trust. And there was more. Much more. The lake cabin, owned by the trust. The farmland Dad believed belonged to him, trust property. Several rental homes producing monthly income, trust assets. Even the generous yearly family gifts everyone assumed came from Grandma's savings had actually been distributed through that trust. None of them owned what they thought they owned. Nobody in my family knew. Daniel looked at me carefully. I believe your grandmother expected today. This is where everything changed. Over the next week, attorneys contacted every family member. At first, Tyler laughed. Then he received certified documents. The laughter stopped. Dad called me 23 times. I didn't answer. My stepmother left voice messages accusing me of fraud. The attorneys handled everything. Soon afterward, everyone gathered inside the law office. This time, I arrived with my legal team. Tyler burst into the conference room. This is ridiculous. He pointed at me. She's lying. The lead attorney calmly opened Grandma's original trust. Every signature was authenticated. Every amendment legally recorded. Every transfer documented. Tyler's face slowly lost its color. Dad leaned against the wall. My stepmother began crying. Then came the final page. Grandma had written one personal statement. It was read aloud. If you are hearing this, then the child who showed me the greatest kindness has also shown the greatest patience. Wealth reveals character. I already knew whose character deserved protecting. Complete silence. Nobody spoke. Pens stopped moving. Even the receptionist outside had paused. Tyler whispered, "No," the attorney continued, "because the trust conditions were violated through documented intimidation and financial exclusion, all discretionary family distributions are permanently terminated." One sentence. Everything collapsed. Within weeks, Dad was forced to sell the lake cabin. Tyler lost the business loan he depended on because the trust had guaranteed it. My stepmother could no longer afford the expensive home she'd insisted on renovating. Family members who had mocked me suddenly wanted forgiveness. That was their second mistake. Money had never been my goal. Peace was. I paid off my student loans, bought a quiet home near the lake, started a scholarship in Grandma Eleanor's name for students who had been abandoned by their families. Every Thanksgiving since then, dozens of young people with nowhere else to go have shared dinner around my table. No one is judged, no one is mocked, no one is turned away. 6 months later, Tyler unexpectedly showed up at my front door. For the first time in his life, he looked small. I just wanted to say, he couldn't finish. He looked around at the warm house filled with laughter, then quietly lowered his head. I'm sorry. I believed he meant it. But forgiveness didn't require reopening closed doors. I smiled gently. I hope you build a better life. Then I wished him well, and closed the door. Not out of revenge. Out of peace. Grandma had been right all along. The richest inheritance she left me wasn't the trust. It was the wisdom to stay calm, while others revealed who they truly were. The people who laughed as they threw me out believed I was leaving with nothing. In reality, I was walking toward everything.